Welcome back. In Texas, the House of Representatives will attempt to reconvene today as the redistricting standoff continues. The House failed to reach a quorum Friday after Democratic lawmakers fled the state to block a vote. The GOP redistricting map would create 5 congressional districts that could flip to Republicans in Texas, and that would shift the balance of power in Congress. Joel Payne and Kevin Sheridan are here. Joel is a CBS News political contributor and the chief communications officer at Move On, and Kevin is a Republican strategist. Good morning to you both, gentlemen. And you're both wearing gray. So look, I love that we have different sides of the aisle, but you can at least agree on style. Joel, let's start with you, because Democrats say that this redistricting plan in Texas is blatant gerrymandering, but California Democrats are threatening to do the same thing. So don't they kind of lose that argument?
Well, look, gerrymandering is unpopular with the public, and I think Democrats would love to mutually agree to step back from the practice of gerrymandering. You know, typically, the way that redistricting happens is on a decade-by-decade basis. What Republicans have done here is decided because their president is unpopular, Donald Trump, because their agenda is unpopular, and because they're going to lose in the 2026 midterms, that the best thing for them to do is to rig the rules to try to steal a couple of additional House seats. It's pure, hardcore politics, and I'm sure Republicans will try to defend it by talking about how Democrats have gerrymandered in other parts of the country, but those are apples and oranges. That's not the same thing. I think that ultimately Republicans will have to pay a price for their pretty naked attempt at partisan gerrymandering here mid-cycle.
Kevin, what do you make of that? Because Republicans are saying, well, hey, this map would reflect population shifts. But if that is the case, why not wait for the census in 5 years? Because it is designed to address that in every state. So how is this not a power grab?
Well, I think Republicans are finally waking up to the fact that 30 years ago, Democrats started doing this. And, you know, in every blue state now, it's almost impossible to get a Republican elected. I come from New England, where about 40% of the voters are Republican, give or take, in a state like Connecticut, Massachusetts, Maine. There hasn't been a Republican there in 20 years. There are 0 Republicans in the entire New England delegation. New Mexico, the same. California has been messed with. Illinois has been messed with. So I don't know that this will fly, you know, midterm, you know, halfway through the census count. But this is something that it varies state by state, but Republicans are finally saying enough is enough. You've done this to us. We're going to do it to you. And to say it's apples and oranges just doesn't even make sense on its face. It's the same thing. It's exactly what blue states have done for 30 years now.
And I wonder how much of this is connected to the overall national sentiment of a lack of trust in Congress and a lack of a belief that they can get the people's work done, because both sides, to your point, have been doing this for some time. Joel, let's jump over and speak about the president's news conference here in a couple of hours. What is the formula he seems to be following, focusing on the crime rate in Washington, D.C.? Because statistically, those numbers are down, but sometimes this is a winning issue for a president.
Oh, Errol, I can tell you the formula. Please don't ask me about my failing economy. Please don't ask me about my unpopular agenda. Please don't ask me about covering up for Jeffrey Epstein. Anything to not ask me about those things. You know, Donald Trump wants to tell you how to study, where to study. He wants to tell you what to think. He wants to tell you who to love. And in D.C., he wants to tell you how to live. And that's not his role. Yes, the federal government does have a unique relationship with Washington, D.C., but there's a tradition of local governance in D.C. that they've managed to figure out how to do for a couple of centuries now. And I think it's an embarrassment that Donald Trump is using this to distract from how unpopular he is. I think that, Donald Trump really seems to loathe his voters, loathe the public, and think that they can't read between the lines of what he's trying to do to move the conversation beyond all the unpopular things he's doing.
And Kevin, what formula do you think the president is following? And also, how might Republicans respond if this was a Democratic president doing the same thing in a majority Republican city?
Well, when it comes to public safety, I think Republicans would be all for it. I don't think it matters who's in charge. If you're not, making it safe on the streets for the people who live in D.C., which I do, then the federal government has a role to step in and finally say enough is enough.
Right, but Kevin, the crime rate is down.
Action. Yeah, but those numbers can get played with. And you're talking about a historic spike that happened during 2020, 2021. Carjackings were 1,000 a year. Okay, everybody knows that. Everybody knows that you don't take your kid to go, fill up your gas tank at a gas station because you could get carjacked. I mean, that's a reality of living in DC. Everybody knows it. Everybody talks about it. It's just a fact of life. And the fact that somebody is finally stepping up and saying, we're not going to put up with this city council, this ridiculous city council that has legalized basically crime for anybody between 14 and 18, that they can just, be ordered by gangs to go do the crime that they would be prosecuted for. Everyone knows the gig here. Everybody gets it. And finally, somebody stepping up. I hope he actually puts some teeth into it. It's the prosecutors who are the real problem here. The cops are doing their jobs. It's the prosecutors who don't prosecute the crime here.
Well, let's see what we hear at approximately 10 a.m. Again, we'll bring that press conference or the discussion to our viewers live. I want to end by asking you both about what we expect to be this summit with the Russian leader on U.S. soil potentially Friday. Joel, is this at least an idea to put pressure on the Kremlin to get to a ceasefire agreement in Ukraine?
I think the American people all have a vested interest in seeing a peaceful resolution of what's going on in Ukraine. But what the American people don't have a vested interest in is Donald Trump giving away territory, giving away leverage and negotiating position ahead of time to Vladimir Putin. He seems to be a lot more comfortable with being tough on unhoused people and people underaged in Washington, D.C. than he does with Vladimir Putin. So maybe, we'll see if he actually decides to apply the same pressure of Vladimir Putin that he wants to apply to people who are unhoused in Washington, D.C.
Kevin, what can Trump do with this meeting?
Look, everybody is pretty clear that President Trump wants peace. He wants it in the Middle East. He wants it in Ukraine, Russia. If he can't get a deal with Vladimir Putin, which is a very big if, I don't know who could. He's got some leverage here, but not much. And Vladimir Putin could just be playing him and just stringing him along and saying, we want all these ridiculous, no army and the Ukraine can't have an army. That's just a non-starter. Of course, they're going to have a military. Of course, some NATO peacekeepers are going to have to be in there. He probably will be going in there saying, let's draw the lines. Let's end this thing. Stop the killing. But if he can't get a deal, I don't know that anybody could.
Cautious optimism there. Joel Payne and Kevin Sheridan, we appreciate you both joining us this morning. Thanks so much.